All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. It is 1 p.m. and thank you for joining me on my weekly webinar. I know a lot of you catch us on the replays that I send out in the afternoon. So we're going to jump in and we're going to talk about promoting from within your company or hiring from outside of your company. And this can apply to just about every business and organization that is out there. And there are two schools of thought: promote from within, because there's a lot of good reasons to do that. And then there are other people who say, nope, you got to hire from outside, for fresh ideas. And we're going to talk about both of those ideas. And so the way I'm going to break this webinar up is we're going to talk first about promoting from within your company and the positives and negatives of that. And then we're going to talk about hiring from outside of your business or your organization and the positives and negatives of that. And I think you'll be interested to see where this goes. So I'll be monitoring the chat. So if anybody has anything in the chat that they want to put in, go for it. And always remember, I'm recording these. I put these up on YouTube for the replay. So if you don't want your face on YouTube, just stay hidden. So let's go ahead and talk about promoting from within. One of the first things, we're going to talk about the positives first. The first thing that does is that boosts morale with your direct reports and your staff, because they see that there is an opportunity for growth, for leadership, for advancement within the company. And a lot of people like that idea. I think the generation that is probably in their 40s and 50s right now, we were the generation that jumped around a lot in our careers. And then our parents' generation, they went to work at the steel mill for 30 years and they just stayed there. But I think we're kind of swinging back towards, can we find a company that we can work for long term? Now, maybe that doesn't mean your entire career, but at least for a good number of years where there's stability there. And I think people are desiring that now. So if you're going to work for a company and you want to have stability, you want to know that you can advance if that's your desire. Now, some people are just good worker bees. They want to get their job, stay at their job, and don't want to advance. They just want to keep doing what they're doing. That's great. We need people like that. But there are other people who want to advance. They want to climb up the ladder. They want to get into higher positions. And so going to work for a business, organization, company, whatever it may be, that has the opportunity for advancement, people are looking for that. And knowing that, that's going to help some people. It's going to boost their morale and it's going to make them want to work for your company. So, and promoting from within is a good benefit to you of that, from that standpoint. Also, if you're promoting from within, you have faster ramp up time. I have been on both ends of this. So I have been promoted from within a company. I have also been hired from outside of a company. So I've got a unique perspective on both of these. And I'm going to kind of draw on some of those experiences during this webinar. When I was promoted from within, I was already in kind of a pre-leadership training program for the company that I was at. So when I got word that I got the job, day one, I hit the ground running. I already had a vision of what I wanted to do with my people. I already knew the job. I knew the culture. I knew the people. It was just like, boom, I was off and running. And from a leadership perspective, the leaders who hired me and put me in that position, that probably was a factor for them. They're like, man, we don't have to train Todd. Todd's ready to go. He's got an email address already. We don't have to set that up. All his paperwork is in at HR. Like day one, he can just hit the ground running. And that's a big benefit, because depending on the position that you're in, I know some corporations and companies are going through changes, they're growing. And man, just having a lot of uptake time for a new hire, whether that's paperwork or just training them, and just them learning the climate and culture of the business, can take a long time. I've heard it said that to fully transition into a new job, if you've been hired from outside, to fully transition and really, become ingrained in part of a company, the culture, know everything about it, takes 2 to 3 years. That's a long time. Some people don't stay at jobs that long. So, I mean, granted, you're going to have to learn a job much more quickly, but if you're promoted from within, you can hit the ground running and just keep running. Another thing is it's cost effective. Like when I was promoted from within, there was not a lot of cost. It was just basically, okay, your office was over there and now it's over there. You've got new duties and responsibilities, but like all my insurance paperwork was in, all my payroll paperwork was in, like all of that was just done. Like we didn't even have to think about that. So it's very cost effective to promote from within. Now, let's talk about some of the negative parts of promoting from within. Um, if you're looking for fresh new ideas, fresh perspective that's not part of your company already, you won't get that from promoting from within unless you've got kind of a rock star who's up and coming and got some really good ideas. Uh, you're gonna you're going to promote from within, and those people are already going to be part of the climate and culture of the company and kind of have a set way of ideas. With the way that you're moving, they've been part of the trainings that you've done. They kind of know how things are going. So they're going to be thinking kind of in a certain pathway that's already been set forth. If you want fresh new perspective, things that have come from outside that you've not heard about before or seen before, then maybe promoting from within is not a great idea. I used to live near a police chief of a local municipality, and we were neighbors and friends with him. And I often talked to him about, who do you hire, and what are the degrees that you look for? And he said, I rarely hire criminal justice majors when I'm hiring a new police officer. I thought, huh, that's interesting. Why is that? Because, you think criminal justice majors in college, they all go into law enforcement, they all become cops. It just makes sense. And he says, well, what I found is they have a certain mindset, and a police officer needs to be a problem solver first, because 9 times out of 10, they're dealing with domestic disputes or disagreements or things like that, where you have to have negotiation skills. You have to be able to talk to people and read the room. You have to get a pulse on what's going on in the situation when you come up to it. So I need people with those soft skills first, because that's what they're going to use the most. And I said, so who do you look to hire? And he said, honestly, I hire business majors, because what do business majors do? They talk to people, they read the room, they negotiate. They're trained with the skills that I want my police officers to have. I don't want my police officers to just go in there and be a hammer that's constantly pounding nails. I want my police officers to be able to verbalize, to talk, to negotiate, to de-escalate, all of those things. And business people, I find, usually have those skills inherently because they're going into business. So I recruit from business schools. And I thought, that is fascinating. Never would have thought about that, but really interesting. So what fresh news perspectives are you looking for? And can you find those within the people that you have on staff already? Or do you need to go outside to do that? The next negative from promoting from within is the internal politics and resentment. If you're promoting from within, you're likely going to have more than one candidate. And that means somebody's not going to get the job. And that is something that I have dealt with before. I was passed over and didn't get the job, and I had to deal with myself on that. I was frustrated. I was grumpy about it. And I thought I should have gotten the job. Now, that also flipped around a few years later, because then I got the job and somebody else didn't. So you have to be able to navigate that. And I think it bears mentioning that you should have a conversation with whoever gets the job. Like, hey, Todd, you got the job, but Jim didn't. And now Jim is one of your direct reports. So you're going to have to navigate that. Fair enough. And maybe problem solve that with the person who put you in the position, because they're going to know the situation and be able to help you through that. And that might be one of the first problems that you solve. The last thing that we're going to talk about as far as negatives about promoting from within is skill or experience gaps. You may require more training or support, and that might not work. Maybe you're being promoted, but you need to be able to hit the ground running, and you don't have those skills. And so hiring somebody from outside, they might have those skills and be ready to go. So again, some of this is going to be dependent upon your situation. And what I want you to do is, I don't want you to take all of these things that I'm saying as hard and fast, this is what has to happen. No. What I want you to do is, I want you to take these things and assess your situation. What's best for your situation? Maybe contact me. Let's have a conversation about, I really like your internal candidate. They've got a lot to offer. Or I don't like your internal candidate. I suggest you go outside. So let's move on to that. Hiring from outside. What are some of the benefits from hiring from outside of your business or your organization. And we already talked about one a little bit, is fresh ideas, innovation. They bring experiences that your company doesn't have. Now, can you hire somebody from within the same industry that just came from a different company? Sure, because they're likely a competitor, and competitors are not often walking the exact same path. Or like the police chief that I mentioned, hiring somebody from outside that has a completely different skill set and is going to approach things from a completely different standpoint. That can be really invigorating and really boost a company's morale. Like, oh, wow, this is a great new idea. We've never thought about that. Let's go for that. Let's take this for as far as it'll go and see what happens. That can be really helpful. Another benefit from hiring outside of your organization or your business is your talent pool is so much huger. I just said that. So much huger, so much larger. You have access to a broader range of applicants. Depending on if you're hiring from within, you may only have 2 or 3 applicants who really are qualified for the job. But if you put it out there on, Monster, Indeed, or some of these websites, you could have a couple hundred applicants from a very wide range of backgrounds and experiences. And maybe that's what you're looking for. So maybe that's what you should do. But again, assess your situation. And I would also encourage you, don't make these decisions in isolation. Get with other leaders in your business, your organization, and figure out what exactly are you looking for? What's going to be the best play for what you need to do? The third benefit from hiring outside of your organization is sometimes it can avoid internal disruption. It can keep internal dynamics intact. Maybe you have 2 teams that are rocking it at 110%, and they are just in the flow state. You don't want to mess that up. And so, you know what? We're going to hire from outside of this, from outside of our company, because if we remove somebody from those teams, then we've got to insert a new person, and then that's going to diminish their flow state. It's going to slow them down. So maybe, we've got these 2 really big projects. We need to keep those projects rolling. We've got to get them completed on time. These are big contracts, and those teams are just functioning perfectly right now. Let's not disrupt that. Fair. Maybe we hire from outside so we can get a higher level manager, and maybe they can help manage some of that, but we don't want to disrupt those teams right now. Again, look at your specific situation and see what's going to fit best for your needs. Let's look at some of the negatives from hiring outside of your business or organization. We kind of mentioned one before, longer onboarding. This means HR paperwork. You're going to lose days, and probably days over a couple of weeks, for paperwork, insurance, dental, profit sharing, whatever you may have, training. You've got to watch all the OSHA videos, depending on what role that you're going into. So you're losing time to just the minutia of a new employee and the new hire. So does that fit what you're doing? Maybe this new position, you don't really need them running for another month. Okay, so you find the perfect candidate, and you've got a month to get all this, just kind of paperwork done. Okay, maybe that works for you. Maybe the perfect candidate is out there, and you don't need them to be on board right away. You can take some time. I often don't find that the case. I often find that people need to hire like 3 days ago because they gave notice and they're only giving us 1 week. Yeah, happens. So it's going to take some time to adapt. They're going to need to learn the climate and the culture. They're going to need to learn names. They're going to need to get an email address. Can the position that you are hiring for sustain a slow uptake? I don't know. That's for you and your leadership team to decide and figure out. The next thing is higher costs. You might have to go outside, find a headhunter. You might have some recruitment costs. You might have subscription costs to some of these websites that post resumes and job applications and that sort of thing. That can maybe not meet your bottom line. Maybe you have to hire and it's got to be done quickly, and you don't have the extra capital to sustain that. Maybe your business is really running close to the red, and man, I just can't take that. So I'm going to promote from within because that person's going to hit the ground running, take the job, and just do a great job. And maybe that's what you do. I know that there are some times when we need to make decisions as leaders where obviously we want to shoot for the stars all the time. We want to have high standards. But sometimes we're going to take good because great isn't available, and good gets the job done. And sometimes we just need to get the job done. There's a saying that I love that I use a lot is good is better than perfect. And I know that, or not good is better than perfect. I apologize. Done is better than perfect. Sometimes getting the job done is better than taking 3 weeks and doing it perfectly, because at least then we can move on to the next job. So there's another saying, and this is what I was tripping up when I was trying to think of that. Good is the enemy of great. We always want to shoot for the high standard. We want greatness. We want things to be perfect. Sure. This is the real world. This is life. Can we always get perfect? Can we always get great? No. But can we get good? Yeah. Good is a lot more attainable. And sometimes good is all we need, depending on the position. So, would you like to be known as a great leader once or a good leader 10 times? What's your situation? So if you want, put something in the chat. Those of you who are watching, put something in the chat. I'd like to see what some of your ideas are on this. And then the final negative for hiring outside of your company is the same negative as hiring from inside of your company. And that is team resentment. There are going to be people who resent not being selected. I'll give you my personal experience. This one was very awkward, and this is, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but I was hired from outside of an organization one time, and I was brought into leadership because of some of the new, fresh ideas that I had, and that's what they were looking for. So that's exactly what I did. Also on the team that I was leading when I got to this organization was a person who applied for the job that I got. And so there was some awkwardness there. Leadership at this organization did have a big fail in my onboarding. They asked me to show up at, Monday at 9 a.m. Fantastic. There was nobody there to greet me. There was nobody there to introduce me around. And the person who I ran into, and because I walked in and I'm kind of looking for somebody to greet me, and somebody walked past and they said, yeah, you're looking for somebody? I said, yeah, my name's Todd. I'm the new such and such. And they were like, oh, yeah, here, why don't you come over here, talk to this person? And I thought that was kind of a weird response for me to get from somebody new. Well, later that day, I found out that the person that I ran into in the office was the person who didn't get the job. It's like, and that was my introduction to this organization. It's like, oh my gosh. Okay. So we need to fix that. We need to fix the onboarding process there. So anyways, but you're going to have resentment. So that's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're going to promote from within. You're going to have some hurt feelings probably. If you're going to hire from outside, you're going to have some hurt feelings probably. You're going to have to deal with that either way. So figure out how you're going to deal with that. Figure out the conversations that you're going to have. Not a client of mine, but somebody that I was in a group with probably 3 or 4 months ago was promoted from within to upper level management. Very, very high ranking position within their company. And one of the people on their teams did not get the job. 2 of them went for it. 1 of them got it. And this was now, I want to say 3 or 4 months into the job. The person who didn't get the job was really struggling with resentment. And this was kind of interesting because they were openly resentful, but they were not resentful towards the person who got the job. And so we just kind of talked about that because I found the psychology behind that fascinating. I said, so what are your interactions like? And this person said, well, when I talk with them, they will frequently, a couple times a week mention how disappointed they are that they didn't get the job. Though they don't hold it against me personally, I can see that is really holding them back in certain places because they're not able to move forward with the job that they're currently doing because they're constantly thinking about, oh, I didn't get the job, and oh, I would have done this, and oh, I would have done that, and so it comes up fairly frequently. And I said, well, how bad is it getting? And this person said, it's getting bad enough. We wonder if we need to let them go. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So, the time in that group ended, and I don't know where that ended up. So, person, if you're watching this, if you know who you are, reach out to me. I'm curious to see, where you guys took that, because that's really interesting. But anyways, so that person and I talked about some strategies, maybe some just team building, maybe take that person out to coffee and just like put it all on the table. Like, hey, I know this is frustrating for you, and I want to see what's best for you. How can we help you grow, move past this, heal, whatever it is? And we just talked about some strategies, and she started taking some of those, and I'm not sure where it left off, but man, what an interesting situation from an outside perspective. Obviously, she has to deal with this, and it's not comfortable for her, but you're probably going to have to deal with that. So as leadership, if you are the leader who is promoting or hiring or whatever, that's something that I want you to have some pre-conversations about with your leadership team. How are you going to navigate the hurt feelings, the disappointment from the people within who did not get the job? Because you're likely going to have to deal with that. And maybe you front load some information. Maybe just even as simple as saying, hey, we've got 3 applicants, 2 of you are not going to get it. So before we even start the interview process, I want you to think about how are you going to react and handle yourself if you don't get the job, because 2 of you are not going to get it. So let's have some conversation around that. And maybe as the leader, if one of the candidates says, if I don't get the job, I'm going to be distraught. I don't even think I'm going to want to work here anymore. Granted. Okay, good to know. Thank you. Thank you for that feedback. Because as a leader, you need to know that if I hire person A, person C doesn't get it, person C is then going to quit. So then I'm going to have to hire for that position as well. That doesn't force your hand into hiring person C, but it's information that you need to know, that you as a leader need to be thinking 2 and 3 steps ahead, because if that happens, then you're going to have to deal with that as well. So all of these things, leaders have to, they say that chess is always played 2 and 3 moves ahead. Well, as leaders, you're professional problem solvers. You need to be thinking 2 and 3 moves ahead of what's going on in your business or your organization, because you just have to. Like you don't have the option of just showing up for the day and looking at your list and be like, okay, let's see, what am I going to do today? Okay, yep, I'll do these things, and that's all I have to do today. All you leaders are laughing right now, because that is not how leadership works. Leadership works by, okay, I've got 5 things on my checklist. I'm going to have 3 dumpster fires before the end of the day, and I'm probably not going to get to 1 and 2 today because things are going to pop off and I'm going to have to handle other stuff. And yes, that is leadership, but you have to have the mindset for leadership. And we're going to be talking about that probably in the coming weeks. The mindset for leadership is not the mindset of an employee, because employees come in and look at the things that are in front of them, directly in front of them. Here's the thing that I'm doing. Great. Leaders have to think about what the employees are doing, what are coming for the employees, and the things that are coming for leadership as well. On the road, in front of you, and what are you going to do and how are you going to handle those things? So I hope you have found this helpful. I hope this fosters good discussion with you, your leadership teams within your businesses and organizations. If you have found this helpful, don't forget, I also have a private leadership mastermind group that we run on Wednesday afternoons at 2 p.m. And that is specifically for leaders, where it is a call just like this. And you get face-to-face time with me and other leaders who show up for the call. And we talk about new topics, but we also talk about your problems and issues that you may be facing. And it's a judgment-free zone. We're all there to help each other out and help you grow as a leader. So if you are interested in something like that, reach out to me. I've got information on that for you as well. That is a paid subscription, but you get a ton of value out of that time together. So thank you all for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you all on my computer screen next week, and we'll see you then. Have a great week, everybody.